Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm reading today for Aquarius energy. I'm reading kind of predictively for July. There's a couple of slightly darker topics in your reading. I have found that there's been some controversial things, some darker things coming through in some of the readings. So I want to say take it more of a heads up to just kind of, I don't know, be healthy, make good choices, look after your people, and all that kind of good stuff. And you shouldn't have any problems. And also just kind of like have faith that everything's happening for a reason, and you'll get through it. It'll be okay. Okay, so let me just get my notes. Let's go in kind of like a logical order. So the first thing I got for you, as I kind of like started thinking about doing your reading, the song Spaceship by Kesha came on, which I actually want to read the lyrics. Let me just get my phone. Yeah, I don't know. You're feeling a bit existential. I was talking in Capricorn's reading about how Pluto is kind of jumping back and forth between their sign and your sign. So any Capricorn Aquarius placements could be really feeling that shift. Pluto kind of dipped its toes into your sign a couple of months back and then went retrograde and kind of went back into Capricorn. I have got a video on this. It's kind of like the cleanup crew. It's kind of like doing the final kind of cementing of the lessons that we've been learning as it's been traversing Capricorn. And when Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's going to bring up new things to kind of... Pluto's kind of like... I think of it as being like a hyper focus, like an in-depth look, almost like obsessive. So it's kind of obsessive over whatever house it affects or whatever sign it's in a way that's kind of like, let's investigate this. So with Aquarius energy, Aquarius rules kind of like topics such as technology, and also kind of being thinking about the greater good and kind of like humanitarian efforts. So we may be finding as Pluto kind of starts moving forward into Aquarius again, which I think happens in January next year, we may see a phase where perhaps certain organizations, perhaps certain human rights groups get scrutinized more. Perhaps we look at the ways that we support society, the way society works as a whole. Are there better ways of doing this? What isn't working? Is there anything that's kind of like festering within those institutions? Pluto comes and cleans out anything that's festering. So it's kind of like if you think Pluto sometimes as being like death energy, it's removing anything that's foul or stinking or rotten kind of thing. It's kind of like the vulture coming in. So which is a good thing, right? It's cleaning the energy, cleansing the air. So new things can grow. It's a good energy. It's not anything actually bad, which I do want to kind of talk about when we get to your cards. So yeah, it's anything that's festering in terms of kind of like, I don't know, charity groups, politics as well. That's kind of coming from Capricorn. We've kind of already had that. But as it goes into Aquarius, it's going to be more kind of like questions like, how is technology benefiting us? Where is technology being used to control people rather than to enable their personal growth? So it's going to kind of ask all these questions. We're going to have a bit of a phase of it. We've already seen a little bit of it with all the discussions about AI that have been coming up. That's very Pluto in Aquarius. Like, let's look at this on a deeper level. Is this working for us? Is this in our benefit? Is this for the greater good? Who's controlling this? All those kind of questions. Very Pluto in Aquarius, I think, personally. So yeah, anyway, you feel Pluto also does talk about it's a very deep thinker, again, with that kind of like analysis, deep thinking, scrutiny, obsessive energy that comes with that planet. But it can bring up questions of like life and death. So depending on which houses in your personal chart Pluto's passing through, you may find endings in those areas. So it can, like I say, it can feel like a challenge, but it does bring in really deep existential questions about life and death. What is the meaning of life? What happens when we die? All this kind of stuff. So really, I'm not surprised that you've got Spaceship by Kesha. I feel like this reading is going to be a like prepare yourself reading, get ready. So if you've been perhaps indulging in any toxic behaviors, toxic habits, the toxicity is coming through with this visualization of the snake here. You know, maybe you've been drinking too much, maybe you've been eating too much kind of like sugary foods, maybe so I'm saying this specifically for you, Aquarius, because you're resonating with Aquarius energy. So it may affect you, it may not. Again, it really does depend on which house it's passing through. But just generally speaking, you may, you know, in preparation for January next year, you may really want to start kind of looking after your health better, getting into good shape, getting into good habits, good routines, because you don't want to be challenged on health issues with that Plutonic energy. And again, it's not bad. It's there to show us, right? It's there to show us. If you think about the tower in tarot, the tower is you know, a shock to the system, but it shows you where the faulty foundations are, you know, the bricks that need replacing. So it's really just showing you the kind of I'm just trying to put into words what I'm being shown, because it's coming through visually, like the soft points, you know, the vulnerable areas, the vulnerable points. It's really going to like show you that so that you can reinforce them, you know, so it doesn't happen again. And that kind of thing. They're showing me my grandma's chimney now, my nana's chimney. Yeah, it's like if you let something, and they're showing me my own roof. So just take care of like the roofs of your houses, maybe give them a bit of an MOT, check your chimney, this kind of thing. So one year there was like a really bad storm. So this is my own roof. There was a really bad storm and I heard this dripping noise, and I realized that there was there must have been damage to my roof during the storm, and there was water dripping in, and it was kind of like staining the wall. So I had to get a roofing company to come out and kind of repair the roof. And they also said, oh, while we're up here, your chimney needs kind of like reinforcing. Do you want us to do that now? I was like, yes, please. Right. And like my nana as well, my dad, a couple of years back, were my dad was going around to kind of like fix my nana's chimney because it was starting to get a bit, you know, the grouting was going, it was starting to lean, it was becoming a hazard. So really that's just an example of kind of like Pluto energy, of being like, just to make you aware, this is falling apart, this is rotting, this foundations aren't stable, you need to either reinforce it or take that down, right? So apply that as a metaphor to whatever way that's coming through in your life. Hello, phone. Yeah, I'd take that as confirmation there. So Spaceship by Kesha, it's that kind of feeling of what happens when we die, right? Where am I going? Where did I come from? And with you being Aquarius energy, Aquarius is very starseed, so we've kind of got that coming through. It says, I always said that when I'm gone, when I'm dead, don't lay me down with the dirt on my head. You won't need a shovel, you don't need a cold headstone. You don't need to cry, I'll be going home. I'm waiting for my spaceship to come back for me. It's coming back for me. I don't really care if you believe it's coming back for me. I've been in a lonesome galaxy, but in my dreams, I see them come and rescue me. Look up in the sky and there they'll be. I bet you'll think of me then. So it's kind of like, oh, they're giving me, when you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Any dream your heart desires will come to you. So being put back in the ground is very Pluto and Capricorn, I feel. It's very much like understanding the cycles of life and death, understanding how in Capricorn's reading I was talking about when fruit rots and falls to the ground, it provides nutrients for the soil for the new plants to grow. So that feels very Pluto and Capricorn. For you, it feels more a little bit more like sort of Roman mythology. I'm thinking of the end of Ovid's Metamorphosis, where he talks about Julius Caesar, right? There could be somebody who's like, you've got kind of like daddy stuff coming through, I'll come back to that. But Julius Caesar, who was the adoptive father of the then Emperor Augustus Caesar. And so Ovid wrote this beautiful piece about Julius Caesar being whisked up in the arms of the goddess Venus and flown up into the sky, where he became like stars in a constellation. So you may have this feeling of, you know, your ancestors watching over you from the heavens, perhaps. You know, maybe there's a certain star that you wish on and you feel like that star is almost calling you home. All that kind of stuff. Very, very Aquarian. You could also be watching movies about aliens, that kind of thing. Interestingly, though, you did have the star, the stallion, and the lake. I have to say, excuse me, I'm looking a little bit scruffy around the edges today. Just kind of turn a blind eye, please. So yeah, from my own deck, you had the star, the stallion, and the lake. And it was giving me like, the first thing I got with star and stallion was like Lonestar. I think because, again, I've kind of got cowboys on the brain. So the Lone Star state, I believe, is Texas. When I first got the word Lone Star, I didn't know what it was referencing. I didn't know. I thought, I know that word, it's a familiar word. Why do I know it? What is it? And so when I actually Googled it, it was what came up was a band, the band Lone Star. Now I do know them, I have got them on my Spotify. There's a song called Baby I'm Amazed by You. I'm Amazed, I think it's called, which is it's kind of like one of those cheesy wedding songs, but it's really cute. But yeah, Lone Star, it's kind of making me think of like Texas Ranger, that kind of thing. So again, there's definitely a reason why this is coming up for me personally in my readings, but it could mean something to you as well. Just because it means something to me doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything to you. So I thought, right, do you know what I'll do? I don't know the band Lone Star very well. I'll go onto their page on Spotify and I'll randomize a song, and whatever song I get, I'm going to mention it for Aquarius. It's going to be Aquarius's song. And you got a song called Mr. Mom. Mr. Mom, so somebody could be like a stay-at-home dad, a single dad. Somebody could be there could be this like flipping of the gender roles, which comes through for you all the time. So it could be that, the wife has been offered a really, really good job and she's going to go back into the workforce, and the guy's like, that's fine, I'll give up my job, I'll stay at home, I'll look after the kids, I'll do the housework and all this kind of good stuff. Aquarius being a very, very forward thinking and kind of, again, this does depend on your full chart personally for you, the watcher, but the watcher made me laugh. I kind of, it's because it referenced something that I was talking about yesterday, but I'll move swiftly on. Yeah, so maybe they want to talk about it. The watcher is, I play The Sims, which again, there's a lot of cowboy and horse stuff coming through in my readings at the moment, which seems to be because I'm interested in that, because The Sims is getting an expansion pack in regards to kind of like horsey type stuff. So I'm not surprised that that's coming through in the readings for me personally. But again, it doesn't mean anything for you. But the Watcher is the term for God in The Sims. So it comes from The Sims Medieval, which had kind of like faux religions in that game, and they would pray to the Watcher. So the Watcher is, yes, it's a word for God, but it also means the player, right? The player is the watcher. So you're the watcher right now. You're the god of this reading. I guess this is for you, which is funny because you've got I'm a slave for you. Right. Okay. So dialing it back in. What was I saying? Mr. Mom by Lone Star. It's also a movie with, I want to say Chevy Chase, but it's not Chevy Chase. Who played Batman? And now I'm thinking Kevin Costner. Definitely not Kevin Costner. Oh, who played Batman and Beetlejuice? Michael Keaton. So any of those names that I've just mentioned, Michael, Kevin, Chevy, but any of those could be, maybe someone drives a Chevy. Any of those things could be meaningful to you. Okay, I also got Care Bears. I saw 2 Care Bears as I was kind of like settling down yesterday evening. Sometimes I get like images that flash up in front of my face. These are kind of psychic images. And so I saw 2 different Care Bears, like different colours. I can't tell you which ones they were. But it made me think as well about, with Mr. Mom, I thought maybe this is perhaps a gay couple adopting a child, so Care Bears. I don't know, but take it as it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. So that was kind of like the end of those kind of channeled messages. So this morning I started to get songs like Ghost by Halsey. I'm searching for something that I can't reach, so let me kind of show you these cards here before I talk about that, because it's just kind of like the order of events. So I'll bring over this Hydra card as well. So it's looking to me like with the Star, the Stallion and the Lake, especially like the Stallion and the Lake here, right? It's like this Stallion's kind of like, I always think he's like searching, right? He's like the song, I'm searching for something I can't reach, because she's she's underground, right? She's in the netherworld. So I'm seeing mirror numbers, so we could be talking about two realms, right? Kind of Alice in Wonderland energy, the mirror realm. So I saw 1441 on the timestamp. Yeah, Capricorn's reading had this really interesting thing about this idea of it was like playing Minecraft. So if you've ever built a nether portal in Minecraft, it's kind of like this portal between the overworld and the underworld, which is called the nether. Sometimes when you build a portal, things from the overworld will wander accidentally through the portal into the nether and vice versa. So it has that feeling of like two different worlds, like the overworld and the underworld, and this horse searching for something. So there could be Sagittarius energy, or it could be talking about kind of like the night energy of the tarot, because the knights are taking action, right? They've got something to do, they've got a message to deliver, or they've got action to take. So he's like searching for this girl that perhaps he needs to deliver a message to, or something like that, but she's underground. So I've been getting a lot of Persephone energy, and I kind of had a bit of a light bulb moment as to why between readings, because it was just the summer solstice, right? And summer solstice marks kind of the end of the peak of summer, I guess, the peak of the longest days, and after that kind of the days get shorter. Sorry, it's the Capricorn beep beep truck. Are there any Capricorn cross watchers? So there used to be this tradition in Capricorn readings that the beep beep truck would always go past on Thursdays when I was doing Capricorn readings. So we might have some background noise, guys. I'm just going to keep plowing on. Yeah, I'm searching for something I can't reach. So with the song Ghost as well, it's like, with the idea of Persephone, right, the summer solstice, the nights are going to get longer, days are going to get shorter. Persephone's gone back underground to spend time with Hades. It's coming through. I don't know why it's coming through so much in the readings. I do, I just explained it. But it's like now this horse, which seems to be a companion of Persephone, is searching for her, and he can't find her, right, because she's gone underground to be with her consort, to be with her husband. So it has this feeling of like, again, in Capricorn's reading, it was like the horse broke through to the other side. But purity and ice, I'm searching for something I can't reach, this sense of purity, right? I want a love that's pure. I want a person that's pure. And then here's the portal. So it's like the horse is searching and it finds the portal. I don't know why there's this tie in between the two readings, right? It's like it sees the portal, kind of like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Again, maybe you're going to watch a film that has these kind of topics. Maybe you're writing a book. Maybe you're playing a computer game. Maybe you're playing Minecraft. I don't know. It's like the horse is looking for Persephone, right? So this new beginning, there's this new portal opening up. And again, it's like the frozen lake, right? The lake has turned to ice with ice. Give me ice, ice, baby. So then... This is the card where I feel a little bit unsure about what is exactly happening here. I'm kind of seeing, I mean, I'm just going to talk about what the card says, and it might mean something to you. So Skylar is a monster. She sees herself as a monster. She's been cursed. She fell in love with the wrong guy. Somebody cursed her. I don't know. And then she became something that she couldn't control, right? She became this monster that would terrorize the oceans. But it says resilience. So it's sort of saying to me something like, perhaps maybe going through some health issue. Maybe it's some kind of like skin issue where, I mean, my eczema's flared up a bit here. I've been doing a lot of kind of cleaning, so I've got like a little tiny patch of eczema. It's not doing too bad at the moment, but it's like maybe having some kind of like acne. I went through a really bad phase where I had really bad acne, or maybe some kind of medical issue where you know, you don't want to look in the mirror. Or it could even be something where, I mean, Capricorn had this thing yesterday as well, where they were running from themselves, right? They couldn't face themselves in the mirror. So there could be something to do with like guilt coming up. Like seeing, I don't know, this idea of seeing yourself as a monster, it kind of giving Medusa energy too, right? I think she was like a sister or a cousin of Medusa. So seeing yourself as repulsive or in some sort of way, or something like this. And also, because this was on the underlying, right? It's like this masculine energy attacking, right? This masculine extreme energy that's kind of coming into, you see how it's like almost like the head of the two different monsters, right? The Skylar and the Hydra. But it's like almost like feeling attacked for the way you look, feeling attacked because people perceive you to be a monster. And then with this resilience and regeneration, because it's the Hydra, it's like every time you chop off the head, the monster comes back, right? It's like you can't defeat that monster. The more you fight it, the more it comes back. So it could even be talking about like dark and feminine energy, you know, spiteful, damaged, vindictive feminine energy. There is another way I can read this though. I mean, resilience and regeneration are persevering, kind of like Nine of Wands energy, persevering through this challenging period with whatever this is. But there's something that happens here where it's something about what she's wearing on her head, right? So I want to say it could be a change of perspective, especially because Aquarius, you're the hangman energy, so you do rule changing opinion, changing perspective. But she's got these kind of like snakes on her head that turn into this almost like a fruit basket. So it's like taking the poison and turning it into medicine, or taking something that's seen as negative and turning it into something that's fruitful. So very similar, again, there's this real tie-in with Capricorn's reading. In meditation and Capricorn's reading, I had this thing about a whole banquet that went rotten, but I was able to use the fruit as fertilizer and plant some pomegranate seeds, and then the tree grew very, very quickly. So again, it's this idea of kind of like, maybe if you prickers do we not bleed, but it's like if you, nothing's wasted. You just have to know how to use something that could be seen as poison or venom. You have to know how to use it in its flip side, in its productive way. And this feeling almost like very, very comfortable. If someone has seen, maybe it's something to do with like part of their facial features, you know, is seen as being not compliant to the Western beauty standard. For example, just because this lady here is, I think, very, very beautiful, but it's like maybe her nose, right? She's not got like a tiny little Barbie ski slope nose, and maybe she wants to be a model, or maybe she feels like she doesn't fit in with all the other girls that the boys fancy. I don't know, it could be something like that. I want to be very sensitive about racial things, but it's kind of like learning to embrace that part of yourself, and like learning to embrace your culture, your heritage, and see that part of yourself as very, very beautiful. It could be something like that, where you know, beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. Interestingly enough, that song Ghost, it's Halsey with this other girl. So again, same-sex relationships coming up again for you. But they're very similar. So they're styled very similar in terms of like dress. They both got these kind of like coloured wigs on that are bobbed, just in a different colour. And the girl that she's with, so it has this kind of mirrored or twinned energy to it. But the girl she's with is an Asian girl. So again, and they're both very, very, very beautiful. So there could also be something about, I was kind of getting something about fetishes. It didn't really come through, but fetishization of the unfamiliar, right? The fetishization of what's not correct, right? So it's kind of like something that happens. You do get a lot of stuff about the beauty industry and things like this. So I'm going to touch on it. The idea of kind of the idea of, sorry, I just saw a neighbour shutting their blinds, so it distracted me. The idea of how beauty standards are always changing. It's funny, I was looking at, I've been seeing a lot of bands like the Beatles, the Monkees, and kind of those kind of bands of the 50s where they were absolute heartthrobs. But if you look at them, I mean, I wouldn't look twice in the street if they walked past me now, right? They look kind of out of fashion, you know, the way that they looked. But the idea of like beauty standards for both men and women changing, and you know, chasing some kind of beauty ideal that's ever changing, because when too many women look a certain way, it becomes overly familiar, oversaturated, and it becomes boring, and people start to look for the unusual or the unique, right? So it's kind of happening now with lips, kind of you know, everybody had those beautiful Russian doll lips for a while, and that, you know, in media and things, and people started to want to emulate that. They're kind of like Bratz doll lips, Russian doll lips. Everybody started to want lip fillers, and it became very, very commonplace and a lot cheaper, a lot more accessible. So I go out and I see women in the street with these big puffy lips, and I think they look bizarre. I think they look weird, right? Because to me, to see that in my environment, it's unfamiliar. But it's like the more we see it, the more comfortable we get with it, and the more familiar we get with it, and the more interesting it's like, or the less interesting it starts to feel. So you're actually seeing a bit of a flip now, where thin lips are kind of coming back in fashion. You know, big kind of like childlike cheeks were in fashion with like Gigi Hadid, and now kind of the gaunt cheeks are really coming into fashion with people getting buccal cheek removal. And then Bella Hadid, with her beautiful kind of Middle Eastern looks, is actually becoming much more admired than Gigi Hadid, who had the more Western style looks. So it's very interesting, this idea of changing beauty standards, and how we should really embrace who we are as an individual. This is very Aquarian, and not try and chase those ideals, because those ideals are ever changing, right? And like, make the fashion, be a fashion leader. You know, if Bella Hadid had gone out there with her kind of like ancestral nose, she had a nose job. She's famously said she regretted it, because she now admires the nose of her ancestors, right? So the idea of her going out and kind of like, you know, doing that catwalk strut with that ancestral nose, she could have changed the beauty standards. She could have made that more desirable. So that's an interesting thing. So this, to me, could be some kind of embrace of a beauty standard, right? And maybe even a beauty standard coming back in fashion and saying, do you know what? I've had this naturally all along. Give me something like that. So another way that I'm reading this, and this is where it's going to be a little bit of a warning, a little bit scary. So do brace yourselves. How this is going to come through for you could be many, many different ways. So don't fret about it. But again, take it as a bit of a red flag to say, do you know what, Aquarius? It's time to really look at kind of, are you overindulging? Is there anything you're doing that's not healthy right now? Because any toxins, the snake to me means toxins and like mouth, could lead down a certain road that not many people return from. Not everybody can be Persephone, right? So I do have to say that these cards, the Hypnos card and the Hades card, especially this Hypnos card, was really coming out for me a lot personally. You can even see it in the readings if you go back and look at them, before my dad died. And I was getting a lot of snake energy. I remember talking about venom in a reading, and this idea of kind of like, the venom is also the medicine, and the venom and the mouth as well, especially. So my dad actually died of viral pneumonia, community pneumonia it's known as. So this was a viral infection that he got from going out and seeing his friends. He wasn't able to shake it, and of course it starts in the mouth, right? So there's this idea of like, it's kind of like a Komodo dragon. I've been saying this week because I've got, and I am being very, very careful to kind of like look after my health and not overdo it. And kind of, I'm drinking green tea and shit like that. So, but it starts off in the mouth, right? So when we get things like pneumonia and things like this, normally it's transmitted by the mouth. It's transmitted by spittle, or things that we touch, you know, it touches our mouth and it spreads that way. So this can talk about that, and the idea of like how viral infections work, right? One person gets better but another person's caught it. So do watch out for that, especially if anyone's particularly immunocompromised. Maybe taking care to not over socialize, not to completely self-isolate, but to just be careful, you know, and be, don't know, extra aware of that, especially kind of in the coming months and things like that. It could be particularly important for you. So again, I've had an appointment that I've had to cancel because I knew I was sick, right? And although I felt medium health, I'd say I felt about 70-80% depending on what I was doing, I thought, I don't want to spread it, because I don't know, you know, the people that I'm going to go and meet with, I don't know if they have family members who are immunocompromised and things like this, and I wouldn't want to be responsible for transmitting an illness that is kind of similar to the one that killed my dad, right? Yeah, the importance of looking after your health if you have these infections, and also respecting community and things like this. So um I do, yeah, it is important to talk about, because these are the cards that I was seeing myself personally when my dad was sick, and it's kind of come back up again. But I want to reassure you as well, the fact that Hypnos is here is a really, really important sign. So we've actually got Hades here, who is the ruler of the underworld, Death, who is the person that transports people to the underworld or to the afterlife, and we have Hypnos. Now, Hypnos is... he's associated with things like morphine and sleep. So Hypnos being here does talk about an easy death, sliding into death with support of all these blessings like morphine and things like this pain removal. So yeah, it's dark, but just a game. They're giving me that Lana Del Rey song. It is dark, but it's it can be a blessing, especially if somebody's had a particularly difficult or long challenging illness. So it could be that somebody's had some kind of illness, perhaps like the big C, where every time they think they've got rid of it, it comes back again. Every time. Again, this is more similar to like what my mum experienced. She had mouth cancer. It was kind of horrific, where it's to live becomes the challenge, right? To live becomes, even though perhaps somebody's resilient, even though perhaps somebody has phases where they get better and then they fall back into it, and they've been fighting this, it could be that actually when the time comes, and I don't know when that'll be, but again, I think this is more the stuff that you're thinking about, right, Aquarius? Because again, it got this kind of like life after death feeling. Sometimes when people have had a really challenging life and they've fought a lot of battles, when they pass away, they return home and it's their chance to rest, right? And they're looked after. So this card also talks to me about, because I could see this as Persephone, right? But with the mask, it's almost like, I don't know if anyone knows the myth of it's Plato, and he talks about, again, with regeneration as well, right? The idea of kind of like the soul going down, kind of shaking off the stuff of the past life and coming up again cleansed, being ready to be born again, and to, like, the mask is almost saying you play a different role now. If you didn't like who you were in that last life, now's your opportunity to have a kind of blank slate and be who you want to be now. So there's a lot of, although it seems a little bit dark and scary, there's actually a lot of positive messages. I just saw 3232 on the timestamp. A lot of positive messages that are coming through here that I find personally very reassuring. Again, there was a lot of reassurance around my dad's passing that helped me to process that. So it would be irresponsible of me to not pass these messages on, because they are intended to reassure, and if I didn't pass these messages on, perhaps somebody would have a tougher time with it. I don't know, right? I trust my guides, and if this is the message, this is a message. So for others of you, there could be a situation where you perhaps had a loved one. Perhaps it could be literally a twin brother, a twin sister, something like this. It could be somebody who felt like your twin flame. It could be somebody who mirrored yourself in terms of their life, right? They led their life a certain way. You survived, they didn't. Something like that. It could be something that happened when you were children or when you were teenagers, because I'm getting a lot of references to kind of like children and teenagers. It could be your first love passed away. You've got, yeah, because I'm searching for something that I can't reach. So it's like trying to find that purity again. If this was a very, very pure love, very from the heart, very, and it could be a parent as well. It could be like a parent-child relationship, because my mum is coming through strongly in this reading. It could be that, you know, you've never felt that kind of love again. You know, you lost that person, you lost the feeling of having unconditional love, which again is almost like to be able to join that person in the afterlife. This is kind of like what my nana experienced. Her husband died many years before her, and she had resilience, and she was a survivor, and she was very independent, and she was wonderful woman. But I think she always missed. He was the love of her life, and yes, she had another boyfriend, but I think her heart belonged to Daddy. That Marilyn Monroe song. Her heart belonged to her husband, and so the last time I went to visit her, she was showing me these pictures of her own father and her husband, my grandpa, and she was saying they've been visiting me. They come to me at night, they visit me, and I knew she didn't have long left. I knew they were coming to collect her, and I love the idea of them being together again in the afterlife. So that feeling of kind of like your one true love, but they've passed on, right? And I do think it's important to live the life we're here to lead, to learn the lessons we're here to lead. But when it's our time, when it's our natural time, to be able to return to that one true love is actually a very beautiful story. So you've also got Smells Like Teen Spirit, the Sophia Carberg cover, which says, I feel stupid and contagious. So this idea of contagious, I feel stupid and contagious. Again, just really watch out if you have some kind of contagious disease, that you don't pass it on. And again, I'm feeling guilt. I'm feeling real guilt of somebody who could have passed something on to. I don't know, maybe going to see somebody who's a little bit vulnerable and, oh my goodness, they died of the thing that you had. Ugh, how awful would that be? But again, when it's our time, it's our time. And just because perhaps the universe uses you as a vehicle to make that happen, it doesn't mean that it's your fault, right? So just be aware of that as well. Don't blame yourself. So I'm a Slave for You, Britney Spears. I was picking up on this thing about children, especially children going into their teen years. You have this kind of coming of age feeling. You know, like when children start to, especially girls, when children start to develop into womanhood, and they start to feel things like desire, and they start to become aware of their own sexuality, and they want to explore that. This theme is coming up for you. Also, you had the song by Billy Joel, She's Always a Woman. She hides like a child, but she's always a woman to me. So you could also be dealing with somebody who has kind of like Lolita energy. It could be a grown-up woman, but who's particularly childlike. Again, this idea of like children and womanhood and sexuality, and questions around that, you know, slightly there's something slightly concerning about it, but because you had the Lambada by Kaoma, and the Lambada is the forbidden dance, right? It's a very sexy dance where the women wear these short skirts, and the way that they move, they flash the bottoms. And the Lambada, the music video, has two children who are wonderfully skilled and talented dancers dancing the lambada, but is it sexually inappropriate for children to dance the lambada? You know, to the children it's just a dance. To the girl, she's just wearing a pretty dress. But to the cameraman who's focusing on her skirt, that's where the inappropriateness comes through for me. So what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate to certain ages, and just also being aware of kind of anything predatory around that. But again, I think for some people it could be, I have to be really careful about how I say this, because you are getting this thing about fetish, which is coming through with Lilith energy, and with Lolita, right? The idea of Lolita, I think it's coming through more as adult women, because again, to confirm this, you had what is it, A&W? I think it was. Oh, I can't remember the song now. Let me just double check. It's a Lana Del Rey song. Hold on. Yeah, somebody could have Spanish ancestry. So it wasn't A&W, but I looked up the lyrics, and the lyrics to A&W are quite disturbing, actually. She says, I've not done a cartwheel since I was 9. Look at the length of hair. Do you think, and look at the shape of my body. Do you think if I told anybody, they'd say I didn't deserve it? So this idea of kind of like, I don't know. There's something really dark coming through there, which again, it's my responsibility as a reader to to talk about these things, because if spirit wants me to talk about them, it's somebody's story. These are people's stories. You just have to go on YouTube and look at any kind of like storytelling kind of you know, real life stories, and these people do have these stories. It's actually disgustingly common, which again I'm going to kind of talk about something else in a moment. But yeah, so this idea of like Lolita energy, like an adult woman who's perhaps has this baby-like little girl way of being, but is very sexually mature. So it was really confirmed to me by the song Taco Truck and VB playing by Lana Del Rey, where she actually says Lanita. That's why they call me Lanita when I get down like Bonita. But Lanita sounds to me a lot like Lolita, so it felt like confirmation to me when I heard that song. So yeah, oh, you also had, I meant to mention this at the beginning, God Put a Smile Upon Your Face by Coldplay, says, where do we go? Nobody knows. So again, it just felt like that existential questioning. What else do we have? I'm just going to kind of come back to some of this. I'm just looking at my notes and trying to get them in order. So I had this thing coming through about, I'm going to bounce around a little bit. I'm sorry, I should have got my notes into a better order before I started. So this thing coming through about how we raise our children, right? A lot of the time society dictates, school systems and things like this dictate, parenting books say that we should teach children to behave themselves. I know that I was raised with this idea of little girls should be seen and not heard. It's literally what my grandma used to tell me. Not my nana, my grandma, different attitudes. But again, like the idea of like be polite, be respectful, do as you're told, be obedient, be good, right? Especially as a little girl. It's is that what we should, does that create a good child? Is that, yes, good by society standards, but is it good for them? Where I was thinking about how I used to work with schools, and I used to work with children who, some of them have been in care, some of them are fostered, some of them had very difficult challenges, some of them had a lot of needs, and these kind of rebellious children, these kind of naughty, you know, sometimes they would be labeled as naughty. I don't think children are naughty, but these naughty children, right? These ones that didn't follow the rules, these ones that weren't capable of following the rules, these ones that had bad parents, right? The idea of, but this idea that children should fit into society, children should do what they're told, children should be seen and not heard. And then you get these rule breaker kids who are survivors, right? They're not doing what they were taught. They were doing what maybe they were doing what they taught, but they were doing what they learned through kind of like street smarts to stay out of trouble, to keep themselves alive, to look after number one, right? To look after themselves. And it creates these kind of tough kids, which is that a bad thing, right? So this interesting thought coming through, especially with this idea of like, if you are a parent perhaps and you've got a child who is bridging that gap between innocent childlike age and experimental teenage age, you know, explorative teenage age, these could definitely be questions that are coming up for you. So I wrote down children who are bad but strong and tough, and it gave me the Milky Bar Kid. So I don't, again, this Western reference, right? So this advert for Milky Bars, which is a chocolate bar in the UK, used to have this little boy with blonde hair, and it used to be, the Milky Bar Kid is strong and tough, but only the best is good enough. The creamiest milk, the whitest bar, the good taste, that's in Milky Bar. Again, it's this little boy, but he was like a cowboy, right? And he used to like fight the bad guys, and he was strong and tough because he ate this chocolate bar that was full of sugar and not actually good for him, but like they were associating it, like they were selling it with this association of like, it's got lots of milk in it, milk's good for your kids' bones, get them to eat chocolate. I don't know, this could be something around that. I'm just throwing it out there. You know, maybe being raised to be good versus being raised to be strong and tough. You can be both. You can be both. And again, to confirm this, you had two songs. You had Guns N' Roses' Live and Let Die. When we were young and my heart was an open book, you used to say live and let live. But like now I'm older and more jaded, I'm like live and let die, bitch. So again, it's kind of like growing up with the fairy tales and learning that you have to you know, save yourself as a princess. It's funny, one of my friends sent me this song, which I already knew actually, I'd already heard it, but because obviously my nickname's Cinderella. So the idea of Cinderella being, there's nothing wrong with Cinderella, right? There's a lot of kind of reclaiming of the more feminine values of Cinderella recently with like, she's a good person, she's kind, she's tolerant, she bears her burdens with this kind of like serenity, and you know, she's rebellious when she needs to be and all this kind of stuff. She's actually got really good values, but she has that kind of like good little girl energy who dreams of a life in a fairy tale castle. And it's only really when she decides to rebel that she changes her life. But it's there's this song that my friend sent me that's called, oh, what is it? Cinderella. Oh, I'll have to double check. Hold on. Cinderella Snapped. So it's by a singer called Jax. It's really good. Once upon a time, there was a princess waiting for a boy to give her back her shoe. Suck it in, be a wife in a blue dress. It's making me think of Scorpio's reading. Scorpio was kind of like pretending to be the perfect housewife, but they were vengeful underneath. The prettiest piece of property the land ever knew. She waited and she waited for the guys to show. But she didn't know that after midnight he was busy in her stepsister's bed, so Cinderella said, plot twist. I don't need no prince to save me, I'm a goddamn CEO. Don't call me baby, equal pay me. Snow White said you tried to kiss her, so I'll just buy myself a new glass slipper and burn your castle down. And kids, that's how Cinderella snapped. So it's a kind of a fun fairy tale. I think it's more engaging for children, especially modern children. You know, I think they'd find that a lot more entertaining, Cinderella Snapped. But what's really funny is you had the song Grande by After Hours, and I don't know if that's particularly meaningful to you. Maybe check out the lyrics. It's Italian, so you might have to translate. But the meaning of that song itself was, I had this moment one day where I just felt really overwhelmed by the presence of the universe. And I found this lighter and it felt like it was just like really placed in my path. And it just, as I was walking past, there was this song about like take the fire or something like that, pick up the fire, take the fire. And as I walked past, I was like, that's for me. The universe has left that for me. It's just a cheap abandoned lighter, right? It doesn't even work. But symbolically, it was like the universe is here, right? And so I was listening to that song as well by After Hours Grande, and it has this real, it's just a real strong song, and it just felt like the presence of a million angels. Like it felt like I was connected to God listening to it. So to me, it's this feeling of kind of like, there could be a moment in July where you feel overwhelmed by divine presence, you know, really, really connected, really looked after by spirit. It could be something like this. I've wrote down believing is something greater than yourself, and memory of divine guidance. So you could have some kind of memory perhaps coming up for you. Again, you've got a lot of stuff about nostalgia and childhood, but this memory of almost encountering the divine, right? And being very like awed and overwhelmed by that. It's coming through with there's a poem by Wordsworth which I don't think I can remember very well, but he talks about, in this poem he talks about rowing this boat and encountering this massive cliff, and it's like suddenly he's faced with this moment of like the awe of God. I can't remember the specific word. There's a specific word, and we use it differently today than they did in the Romantic period. Even the word romantic had a different meaning. It originally meant like an adventure, right? Something that felt incredible and amazing and out there. A romance was this journey, where we use it now to mean more kind of like love. It had a very different original meaning. But yeah, back to the lighter. So I was just messing with this lighter, and I was kind of making my notes and thinking about your reading and interpreting it and channeling, and I was just going like this, like, you know, like without even thinking about it, and the song Firestarter played. I was like, oh my God. And it's funny, you've got that Cinderella burnt his castle down. right? I don't know. Don't do anything stupid. It's like live and let die, right? I don't know. I'm very live and let live. But also that idea of live and let die being like, you know, sometimes you've got to fight. Sometimes you've got to be the bad guy to survive. That kind of thing. I don't know. What's really lovely though is, again, after this feeling of kind of like, I feel the universe around me suddenly. I feel like I can feel all the angels around me. I had this feeling when I was flying to Ireland and the plane hit turbulence. I had this vision of the plane being surrounded by angels, and suddenly I felt safe. And I had that feeling again, like like the idea of like there being thousands of angels like in the air. And then the song Eternal Flame came on, which I associate with my mum. So again, this feeling very safe and protected because somebody in spirit is surrounding me with this love energy. Am I only dreaming, or is this burning an eternal flame? So eternal flame, it could be, I don't know, God, the one, something like that. But it could also be a very divine soulmate connection for you. Soulmates are not necessarily love. Soulmates are soul family. Again, starseed has soul family, star family. My mum being a member of my soul family, right? Am I only dreaming, or is this real? So somebody could be having a spiritual awakening. When I first had my spiritual awakening, I had my dark night of the soul. I felt awful. I was sick. I couldn't eat. I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, the universe is speaking to me in like numbers. Like, oh my God, am I in the Matrix? What is happening? And it's like every song that I listened to was like replying to my thoughts. And I was like, am I going crazy? So I remember this specific day where I was walking home. I think I was walking to work. And I was like, okay, if this is real, give me a sign. I had this real kind of like, I need a sign that this is real. And there was a single flash of lightning in the sky. And I was like, it was a clear day. And it was just this flash of lightning. And I was like, oh my God, right? So it's like I've had all this confirmation. And you know, that idea of like, am I only dreaming, or is this real? It's like the universe is like, this is fucking real, bitch, get used to it. So anyway, moving swiftly on. I'm going to take a second to drink some water to cool myself down because it's very warm. I'll pull cards for you on camera. Back in a second, Aquarius. Okay, so Aquarius, two specific things that I'm hearing for you. Make sure you I mean, maybe pay attention to your temperature and things like that. If you have any health concerns, maybe make sure you've got one of those at-home ear thermometers. Excuse me, coughing now. And I've just actually ordered for myself one of those. If you ever go to hospital or to the doctor and they check your oxygen levels, they put this little clip on your finger. It's really interesting, actually. They work with like UV light, and it checks the color of your blood, and that's how they know how much oxygen's in your blood. I was like, that's very cool. But they're really cheap. I just bought myself one off Amazon for like £15. Which again, maybe not everybody finds super cheap, but when it's talking about healthcare concerns, especially anything that's an ongoing healthcare concern, for example, my kid has asthma, and when they get a cold, we can get quite worried about the breathing levels. So yeah, we just kind of got a one. I've just bought one of these finger clips because I thought rather than taking them to A&E, I can just whack that on the finger and check their oxygen level at home, and then I know if they're getting enough oxygen. So again, it's just, and it's my own paranoia, right? It's my own just me reassuring myself that I've got that thing at home. I can just whack it on and be like, yeah, you can breathe. You know, or let's call an ambulance. So yeah, it's anything and things as well, like we've got now an at-home blood pressure monitor. Again, there's a lot of medical equipment that you can just buy quite cheaply on the internet or through whatever way you want to buy it, and the decent quality. Again, just again the benefit, and this is the beauty of Aquarius energy, which rules technology. All these advances of technology are a good thing, you know. The idea of making medical equipment more accessible, so you know you don't have to drag your kids you know, miles to the nearest city to go and see the local doctor. You know, you can just have this thing at home, you know, like what's the pinprick thing as well, like for diabetes, all this stuff that you can just buy is like quite cheap, and you can just do these like medical monitoring things at home. Like obviously we shouldn't self-diagnose, but if you know what to look for, you know, and if you have a specific concern of, oh, is my child getting enough oxygen right now, you can really quickly check. It takes a lot of the paranoia away, especially when, you know, if you're in somewhere like America, medical bills can be really, really high. You know, you don't want to And sometimes you can be like, I don't want to waste the doctor's time. Even me here in the UK, I'm like, I don't want to waste the doctor's time. I don't want to take my kid into A&E and like, spread an infection around or anything like that. So if that's something you want to look into, maybe buying a lot of different like monitors at home, I think that's a really good idea if you can afford it. And again, a lot cheaper than a medical bill, right? What else as well? Green tea. I've been drinking a lot of green tea. Anything like that, just to kind of like track your health, all that good stuff. That's crazy as well that we had Hades and Hypnos come out together. Like I say, you can see how I separate the cards like this every time I put them away. So it's crazy when cards like that come out together. Okay, what do we have for Aquarius? Cards on camera time. They've not given me many decks to use. They've given me very, very specific decks. So we'll kind of see how we go. I just want to see if there's anything else from this deck for you. Aquarius for July, please. Aquarius for July. Is there anything else that would like to come out? Marine life richness. Kind of making me think of that submarine, right? What's really funny, that submarine, and I've been talking about it in my readings a little bit. It's the one full of millionaires that's gone to look for the Titanic and then they got lost. I don't really know what's going on with it, but I was channeling the Titanic. I think the day before it happened, I was like, why am I getting references to the Titanic? And I've spoken about it in a few of my readings. But then I saw Awakening to Spirit as well. I had a post about that she's also been channeling it, and she was all freaked out. So she's actually she's called Cindy. I love her. She's amazing. One of my favorite readers. She's actually been like, I feel so strongly about this. Should I tell someone? And I think they've contacted like the Coast Guard to say, look, this is what I've channeled. Take it or leave it. Maybe look here. And another reader that I watched called Joya Knows, she was freaked out as well because she was like, oh my God, I was seeing in a vision. Like again, if you like the channeled messages and you like the more psychic aspect of my readings, Joya Knows. She used to be called Egyptian Intuition Tarot. She changed her name to Joya Knows. Very strong psychic. She's I've got full body goosebumps then. She had this reading where she was talking about, I think it was an Aquarius reading as well. She was seeing people drinking wine on a submarine. Oh no, people drinking wine in a scuba suit, I think she had. So it's like everybody's channeling it. It's so bizarre. So it could just be talking about that. I don't know. I'm just going to move that over to one side because I don't know if that's for you or what that is. The deer power. Oh, I love deer energy. So deer is really interesting. I think it could be talking about female empowerment. You had that Cinderella is a CEO energy. So young female deer energy to me symbolizes vulnerability, naivety, something that needs to be protected. The kind of full stag energy talks to me about emperor energy. So this is like the CEO. So it really has that interesting energy of kind of like tapping into, especially if you feel like a vulnerable female, tapping into that almost like ancestral guidance. If you think about Harry Potter, it's like tapping into, I come from a family who historically ran a very, very successful business. I'm from a family of successful money-making businessmen. I didn't inherit any of the money. It actually all got given to like a charity, which it's so funny. Like another family member from another branch of my family has, very coincidentally, like nothing to do with each other, is benefiting from that. So yeah, the idea of kind of like okay, so maybe I haven't inherited any wealth, but I've inherited power, right? I come from a good tree back there. So yeah, tapping into that, right? Tapping into that ancestral wisdom, tapping into your inner CEO, your inner emperor, no matter how you present outwardly. And don't underestimate the deer. She used to say live and let live, and now she says live and let die. I don't know what to say about that. Okay, I'm also using Starseed Oracle Shaman's Dream, if you're interested in these. This is from, I've got a big mixed deck here, but all of these are by Kinga Britchke, and that's the artist, and Stacey DeMarco. So there's 4 decks there by Stacey DeMarco and Kinga Britchke, if you're interested in those. This is the animal deck. Okay, so power and deer. What do we have from this deck, please? And then we'll clarify in a moment. Aquarius for July. It could be like Cinderella's dead now. There's another song by Emmeline, Cinderella's dead now. And it's basically saying, I'm not that person anymore. This is a new me. Kind of like dead names, you know, when people change gender and they have the dead name and then they pick a new name. Crown Games, the right use of power. Oh my goodness, you've got power twice. Guys. The Father Gate, bold step forward. This is reminding me, actually, I missed it from your notes. You've got daddy issues by the neighborhood. If you were my little girl, I'd run away and hide with you. So the idea of like wanting to protect and maybe wanting to protect kind of like the naive female. So again, we could be talking about adult kind of Lolita energy, kind of, you know, just because it says little girl, it doesn't mean literally, but the idea of kind of like the vulnerable deer, you know, wanting to protect that kind of energy, however that shows up. But he says, I've got daddy issues too. Yeah, gathering around the power of community, clarity and organization. So organizing a community, this is very Aquarian, right? Organizing a community for the greater good, right? To empower the community. And adaptability, woodwives. So a tidy house, I wish. Gathering around a tidy house and woodwives. So there could be something about being a wife, being a good wife, keeping the house tidy. Just my Sagittarius Mars placement is like, I'll just have a messy house and I'll go outside. I'll just run away from it. Like that kind of thing. I'll Cinderella, I'll run away from the house instead of the ball. So yeah, it's running away from my responsibilities, like that meme. Gathering around the power of community, a tidy house, clarity and organisation, and woodwives' adaptability. The adaptability of the concept of a wife, perhaps. I don't know. I'm going to put those to one side because they came out in like a big look. But let's move that one there. Okay, the Father Gate, a bold step forward. I mean, it feels like a bold step forward to pass through one gate and to have that kind of limbo period before you pass through the other gate. It does feel a little bit like crossing the river Styx a little bit, you know. But it's kind of like being able to see where you want to go, but knowing that there's a journey in between, right? Knowing that there's going to be some bravery needed. Could it again be in regards to being a father or in regards to your own father or father issues in general. I was thinking about myself and my own daddy issues there. The blue flame, spontaneous awakening. It says somebody might be having an awakening. Activation, integration time. Lifting the veil, questioning anything. And the line must go, oh my God, Aquarius, you are in the matrix. You are questioning everything. Somebody's having an awakening. I love it. Oh yeah. Goodbye Capricorn energy, hello Aquarius energy. Capricorn is of the box, Aquarius is out of the box. Okay, fall into my arms, surrender, holding opposites, extremes of life. You had that extremes card, so the idea of extremes twice. Look at how beautiful that is. Fall into my arms. I mean, yes, Daddy. Double mission, light worker, starseed, serve the world by being you. So being more authentic. Called soul gifts and training. It's time to step up. Aquarius. Are you the new Jibu? Are you getting a community? Are you gathering a community around to tidy my house? Like, thank you. I appreciate it. Tarot de la Nuit is the clarifying deck that I'm going to use, and I just dropped the book. Tell me about power and deer and the right use of power. So there could be some abuse of power. Whoa, we're talking about fire starter. 10 of Wands, dropping burdens, refusing to do what does not serve you, refusing to do things that do not align with you. So if this is a job that, you know, you have certain expectations, perhaps because of gender, you're like, nah, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to go and be my authentic self, actually. I'm going to go and do what I want to do and not what you're telling me I should do because I have a certain set of genitalia. It has that kind of feeling to it. I mean, it's like Cinderella burning the wedding dress. I don't know. Yeah, getting rid of some responsibilities. I mean, power, crown games, right use of power. I was talking about kind of emperor energy. Sometimes emperor energy can feel... I mean, emperor energy has a lot of responsibilities, a lot of burdens on the shoulder. There's a lot of people who depend on the emperor. You know, they really are in a difficult position where they have to make a lot of choices, you know, for the greater good. And you know, they do have a duty of care to those who they lead. So the crown games, right use of power could be a challenge, a power challenge that's been going through quite a lot. I think Capricorn, Leo, Libra, Scorpio have all had this kind of like Game of Thrones energy. Yeah, but there's some kind of release of burdens there with that. Tell me about the Father Gate, bold step forward. So you've got the High Priestess. Oh, this knowing, you know. Again, this idea of like traveling to the underworld coming through. But there's some deception. Watch out for self-deception with this. This card always kind of looks to me like she has nothing to hide. She's coming out like she has nothing to hide. But like the fact that she's coming out like she's got nothing to hide could be the trick. Where this girl in the background kind of looks a little bit resentful. The High Priestess. The High Priestess is like she's the gatekeeper. She's like these two pillars. She's guarding the portal. She's guarding the gateway between realms, right? So she's Persephone, able to travel through both gates of neither world. She's kind of the void. She's of the limbo. She's able to access deep, profound knowledge of the kind of arcane, of the afterlife. It has deception. Why does it have deception? Is she being deceptive, or is she guarding against deception? Why? And so I'm just going to go to my own deck. It's a little bit scruffy. Why? I just trust it. Why is the deception here? Wheel of Fortune. So there could be money involved. There is some kind of change here. There's a choice. Choice and fate. There's some kind of deception here around the polarity between choice and fate, autonomy and destiny. I did channel something yesterday. It was something like I was thinking about some of the references in kind of old Greek literature, specifically kind of like the Odyssey and the Iliad, and there is a scene where I think it's in the Odyssey, but is it the mother of Odysseus? Or it could be the mother of Odysseus or the mother of Achilles. My memory's a bit shaky on it, but she's kind of like this semi-sea nymph goddess, and she goes to Zeus and she's pleading with him to intervene, pleading with him to help. And Zeus says, even the gods don't have power over fate. And so the idea of the difference perhaps between autonomy and the things we can change, and these fated moments that are fixed points in time that are, you know, beyond even the power of the gods to change. And then some deception over this, some deception perhaps over how much autonomy we have. Perhaps we think we're making decisions, but actually these are programmed choices, programmed by, you know, the things we know and the things we don't know. If we don't know there's another choice to make, we're not going to make it. You know, we might say in hindsight, oh, I wish I'd done that other thing, but did you know about it back then? Did you know that was an option? Was that even a thought in your mind? You could say, I made a bad choice, but that bad choice could be ancestral programming, you know, because you saw your parents make that choice a million times. So when you had an instant to think, that's the option you went for because it was a programmed choice. So the idea of programming and true autonomy, I don't know if we can ever really have true autonomy unless we can see every single possible, like oh, what's he called, Doctor Strange in Avengers, right, where he's like, I've looked at every single timeline, every single possibility. Unless you have the mind of a god and you can see everything that there is to know about a situation, every eventual outcome, every possibility, every single cog in that machine, you don't really have autonomy. We are programmed. We're programmed by our parents. We're programmed by society. We're programmed by the media that we watch. We're programmed by our education. We're programmed by what information is available to us and what is not. And you can even see this in terms of like governments where, for example, one of my favourite things is that in the UK we have the Conservative Party, and if I've looked at the data, and when I looked at the data, I looked at which party is most likely to vote for improvements to education. And the Conservative Party, out of I think the three that it referenced like the main ones, Labour, Lib Dems and Conservative. It said the Conservative Party are the most likely to vote against any improvements to education. Why would they do that, do you think? When they actually, if you look at kind of like the manifestos, they're always talking about education and all this kind of stuff, but they don't really say how they're going to approve it. And then they go ahead and vote against it. For example, voting to up tuition fees and things like this. So the reason why I think personally that they do this is because I've also looked at the data of who votes for the Conservative Party. You're more likely to vote for the Conservative Party if you are less educated. The more educated you are, the less likely you are to vote for the Conservative Party. So that tells you something. Why would they vote against education? Because if they educate you, the propaganda's not going to work on you. If they teach you critical thinking, they're not going to be able to puppet you. That's my own personal logical reasoning based on the evidence and my own education that they did not grant me. Yeah, I went to a public high school, a state-funded school. I was not taught classical studies. I very, very luckily got the chance to go and get a degree, and I thought, I'm going to study the thing that they don't want me to study. I'm going to study politics in the ancient world. I'm going to study all the literature, the highbrow literature that these people don't teach in schools. And look at that, I learned all the tricks that they do that they didn't want me to know. So yeah, we're puppets, basically. Puppets of a society that doesn't want us to think for ourselves. And that's the good news. Aquarius energy is going to sort that out. Aquarius energy is very good at, if you think about like how the internet was basically invented during an Aquarius season, because it's a great equalizer, right? It's like putting information that used to be kept behind gates, right? It used to be locked away in university libraries. Now it's at our fingertips, technological advances, instead of having to go and see a doctor, which again, like nothing against doctors, like they train hard, right, to get that kind of information. They are a blessing, right, to want to become a doctor, to want to save lives, to go through that kind of like, to go through medical school. Like, I will praise the fuck out of that. But you do get some people who do it and they go into cosmetic surgery and give people cosmetic surgery because they want to make money, not because the person needs it, right? Maybe that person would have been better going to a mental health expert to help them with their confidence issues. But no, come to my surgery, I'll stuff you full of lip filler. On your way. Thanks for the cash, bitch. I'm going to tell you how ugly you are and convince you to get surgery you don't need. That happens, right? So you get good guys, you get bad guys in any institution, guys and girls. But Aquarius energy coming in and being like, hey, let's make this technology, cheaper, more widely available, put that power into people's own homes. So yeah, I love Aquarius energy, especially in terms of like when it comes around with these big planets, because it makes big changes. Fall into my arms, surrender, holding opposites, extremes of life. Fall into my arms. King of Swords, there you are. So it's you doing this. King of Swords is Aquarius energy. Somebody who knows, I don't know what education level you have, but King of Swords Aquarius energy is normally a very deep thinker. Normally they are very good at finding the answers that they need. They're very good at accessing information. They're very good at exploring ideas on a deeper level. So no matter what, you know, your CV says, you probably have some deep knowledge about certain areas that could be very beneficial to a community around you. I'm gonna have to hurry up. I've got my batteries going on my phone. But yeah, it could also be a doctor. The King of Swords can indicate doctors and medical professionals. So maybe you need to go and see a doctor and fall into their arms and be like, fix me, fix me, daddy. I don't know, but you know that the King of Swords is normally you. Very well educated, very knowledgeable. Whether that's a self-education or a academic education, I don't know. So tell me about lifting the veil and the blue flame, this spontaneous spiritual awakening. Again, it can be like experiencing a tower moment. It can be, it's kind of like, what they're kind of giving me is, you know, there's stories of like amazing feats of human strength where, you know, I remember one that I watched on telly once where a car accidentally rolled over onto this woman's child and she ran over and she lifted the car, and she was like a little woman. She was like, I couldn't, if you asked me to do that again, I wouldn't be able to do it. But the adrenaline, the instincts took over, and I did this amazing feat of strength, this amazing miracle. So it could be a moment like that where just something happens, and in the moment you're given the strength of God, or you look, you know, you have this moment of like feeling the universe around you. Tell me about lifting the veil and blue flame for Aquarius. There's that 9 of Wands, the wounded warrior. I mean, not anymore, right? Going into 10 of Wands where you put the burdens down. 10 of Swords. Oh, 10 of Swords is like stabbed in the back, betrayed, after being very wounded for a long time. So fighting battles. Again, the idea of what we saw right at the beginning, where it's like perseverance, resilience, you know, fighting a battle again and again and again and again and again, only to be betrayed. But it unlocks something. It unlocks something. It could be about medical issues. You could have medical issues. Somebody around you could have a medical issue, and you could feel very let down or betrayed by the medical industry. And it's like, do you know what? This isn't right. I'm making a change. We're going to do this differently. And maybe this is a political thing. Aquarian is a very political energy. It's political in terms of using the system to make changes. So this is like, I don't know, doing one of those polls that means, you know, everybody signs it and then, you know, it has to be discussed in Parliament, or, you know, civil action lawsuits, or this is like, I mean, this is starting to feel a little bit like reorganizing the House, reorganizing the political system, reorganizing the medical system. It's like, you know, this is not fit for purpose. Again, that Plutonian Plutonian enemy, that Plutonian energy that says, oh, we need to dig deeper here. We need to scrutinize this. This is not working. Anything that is not working must go. Let's do this for the greater good with the Aquarian energy. And I love it, right? It's about fecking time. You know, just look at the Conservative Party selling off bits of the NHS to their rich friends. You can also talk about the medical industry, how sometimes prices get pushed up, right? So supply and demand, and certain drugs, they run up the prices on them. And even like one of my friends has diabetes, and we were talking the other day about there's a drug that is used to manage diabetes, but the beauty industry's cottoned onto the idea of using it as a weight loss drug. And so all these influencers have been promoting it, and people have been buying up all the stocks of this drug that is a life-saving drug to people who have diabetes. That's the purpose of the drug, and using it because they want to be beach body ready, skinny, because they don't want to actually do the work and like eat healthily and diet, right? It's like they're just using it for a vapid reason rather than... And then it's not available, and people are going to die because the people who need it can't get it, you know? So you feel a bit angry. Double mission, light worker, starseed, serve the world by being you. Justice. moving on. I feel like justice has failed you. I feel like if you've been seeking justice, if you've been doing something with like the court system, this is like the institution failing you, but you're moving on, right? Moving on to what you're called to do. So what are you being called to do? Soul gifts and training. It's time to step up. Got an Aquarius friend whose degrees in politics, and I'm thinking, what's going to piss them off and get them back into politics? What's going to piss them off so badly that they, I don't know. It's called Soul Gifts and Training. It's time to step up. Aquarius. Soul Gifts and Training. It's time to step up. There you are, going through that portal, right? It's like marching into the underworld, marching into Hades to go and have a word with them and be like, hey, what are you playing at down here? The Star. Oh my god. And Temperance. Oh my fucking god. Head to toe goosebumps. It's like Aquarius energy, you are the man for the job. Like the Star card is Aquarius, and it's literally, the meaning of it is healing. It carries this really strong healing energy. So you're healing something. You are being called to heal something with divine light, with hope, with inspiration, with inspired ideas, with forward thinking ideas, with the intention to change things for the better. You are healing, right? You are healing yourself. You are healing society. Use your soul gifts and training. It's time to step up. You will know what to do because it's you. And I feel like this is why perhaps you're having this spiritual awakening moment, this divine wake-up call, because it's like, we need you right now, Aquarius, right? We need you now. You are the person to do this. And if you felt like you had no autonomy, if you felt like life was teaching you lessons, it was all training for this moment and this purpose. And I feel like if you don't know what it is now, I feel like you're going to have this moment of inspiration. I feel like you're going to have this wake-up call, and it could be from July into, I would say it could be actually over the next, say, 8 years. As Pluto transverses your sign, you could be experiencing this. You could have the multiple spiritual awakenings and multiple moments of clarity where you feel this drive. I want to say it's fueled by some kind of anger, like betrayed by the system, where it's like, so I just heard social justice. You are perhaps joining certain movements, joining certain organizations, creating groups, and it could be creating a Facebook group that's like, hey, anyone else do this? Again, towards the end of my life, again, picking Conservative Party, towards the end of my mum's life, they raised the retirement age. So just as my mum was about to retire, they raised the retirement age from 60 to 65, and she was hit by that, and she wasn't healthy, and she was basically forced into a situation where she felt like she had to continue working when her body was not, it was getting run down far too fast, right? And she was getting sick far too fast. That retirement money that she had, I mean, she'd worked civic jobs, she'd worked for the government, and she had some decent monies, in a retirement fund, and she was robbed of it because by the time she reached 65, she died. So she didn't get her retirement money that she'd worked her entire life for, and she had worked for the government to get. That kind of betrayal by the government. So in those last 5 years, she was joining groups of women called WASPs, WASPies. So you can look this up. They are women against something pensions, something like that. It is WASPies. And she was joining these groups, and she was considering going on marches, and she was supporting them, and she was very, very active. She actually got banned from Facebook at one point. Because she was being such an activist. I don't know what she did wrong, but again, she had this activist Aquarian energy. She wasn't Aquarius, but something in her chart was making her act in that Aquarian energy, where she was like, it's kind of like, if we tolerate this, then our children will be next, right? It's the government robbing the poor, and it's sickening. So that's my thoughts on this. I'm gonna go. I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I am actually quite pissed off right now. I don't know what I'm gonna go and do with that energy. I might clean. It's like when I'm really sad or when I get really pissed off, I do clean because it's like, well, I don't like cleaning anyway, and I'm in a bad mood, so how much worse can my mood get? But yeah, I hope this was helpful. Let's get you a song on camera to kind of like wrap this up. So you might want to team up with some Mars in Sagittarius placements, actually. Aquarius energy is very activist energy. Sagittarius in Mars actually has a similar thing. Sagittarius in Mars is like, you can't stand things that aren't fair. You can't stand things that are not honorable. That's one thing that fires up. So I think that's why I'm getting so so pissed off in your reading. Aquarius, please. Clarifier. Stronger by Sugar Babes. Sugar Babes, right? Lolita. Stronger. Makes me think of that Britney Spears song as well. I'm stronger than yesterday. Ain't got nothing but my way. So Sugar Babes are stronger. I'll make it through the rainy days. I'll be the one who stands here longer than the rest. When my landscape changes, rearranges, there's that resilience, right? I'll be stronger than I've ever been. No more stillness, more sunlight. Everything's going to be all right. I mean, the star is the sun and you're bringing it. I know that there's going to be a change. Better find your way out of your fear. If you want to come with me, then that's the way it's got to be. I'm all alone and finally I'm getting stronger. You'll come to see just what I can be. I'm getting stronger. Woo, Aquarius, I love this for you. I love it so much. Wow. Okay. I'm just thinking as well, I mentioned my friend who's trained in politics. They actually worked in they actually knew a lot about the kind of like aspect of that in regards to kind of like women's health, women's victims of abuse and things like this, like women's issues within politics. That was kind of like the specialism. So really their energy's all over this reading. I didn't intentionally mean to read for them, but they keep popping into my head. All right, do take care of yourselves. I love you to pieces, Aquarius. You're doing a great job out there. Keep fighting the good fight, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye, friends.